guys!
Hi guys!
How you doing? I am here, as promised, with Lesley Livingston.
That would be me.
She's an author of these booky books. Lesley and I have been friends since, was it the dawn of time or sometime after?
I think it was actually a little before the dawn of time. It was like sort of the dusky dawn of time.
We've known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
And I read her first book that hasn't been published yet.
That's right. That one.
Her very first. I'm her earliest reader. She's always been an amazing writer, and her books are some of my favorite books that I have in my house. But now we're going to talk to her about writing and stuff, because that's exciting, right? Hopefully.
Sure! It's terribly exciting.
So let's start by finding out what made you want to write these books and sort of the beginning process.
Okay. Wondrous Strange, which is the first book in the series, is about a 17-year-old actress by the name of Kelly Winslow, who is an understudy in an off-Broadway production of A Midsummer Night's Dream, who discovers that Shakespeare didn't make it up. He was, in fact, telling the truth when he was talking about fairies, that fairies exist in the real world, and that Kelly is, in fact...
Which we all know.
Well, I knew that.
Because unicorns are real, too.
Yes, and... There's one under the table right now. Just
snoring.
don't make any sudden moves. Where was I? Oh yeah, fairies. Fairies are real. And in fact, Kelly is tied in far more closely to this otherworldly realm than she could possibly expect, not even knowing that they exist. And all of Central Park in New York City is in fact a gateway to this other realm. And it is guarded by 13 Janus guards, who are changelings stolen at birth by the fairies and raised in the other world. And one of them's really hot.
More than one of them's really hot.
Well, actually, yeah, several.
They're very attractive. It's frightening and attractive.
Cool. One of them named Sunny Flannery, who's a young Janus guard, runs into Kelly in the park when she's rehearsing her lines because she actually has to step into the role of the fairy queen when the actress playing Titania takes that whole, break a leg thing entirely too seriously and breaks a leg. So Kelly's rehearsing her lines and she runs into Sunny Flannery and he figures there's something not quite normal about this girl, and so he decides to figure out what that is. And he sort of runs into her a lot because of that, and she just basically thinks that, he's stalking her. Until she winds up with the fairy horse in her bathtub.
Doesn't it sound amazing? I know some of you have read it already. And I think that I've talked about it before. You know that I love these books, and they have a cherished place in my home. So now, should we take questions?
Sure. Questions from the audience.
I'm going to take a Twitter question right now from Snotty Potty.
Hello, Snotty Potty.
Did you do any research into Irish or other culture stories about fairies?
Hello, Snotty Potty. Why, yes, I did, actually. Oh, I suppose I should have my Irish accent on for this, then.
Well, she has a slight British accent, but
right.
It's an Irish question, so yes.
It is. Or I could just, almost talk like a normal person. Make it happen. Yes, actually, I did do a good deal of research into fairy mythology. I already had a fairly extensive knowledge of fairy mythology.
It was a subject of conversation between us for years before this happened.
Yeah, back in the dusky dawn of time.
Yeah.
I've always been interested in that sort of thing. I've always been interested in Celtic mythology and Arthurian literature, and I'm just basically a big mythology geek. So I basically had a lot of this stuff already living in my head, but it would come to certain points in the story where I would need to do some research about a particular species of fae or traditions or lore, and I would hit the internet and I would hit the books.
Did the fairy book I bought you come in handy?
The fairy book you bought me came very handy.
I helped.
Yes, she did.
I, in fact, wrote the book.
Yes. I said too much.
Okay, no, yes. I didn't write the book.
Yes, this is my pseudonym. Pseudonym? Pseudonymous personality. Yes, I did actually do a fair amount of research. What I also did a lot of research into, in fact, was the history of Central Park and New York City, because of course it takes place in New York, in modern day New York, but I did a lot of research actually into the building of the park around the turn of the century, because there was this weird sort of coincidence when I was delving into sort of what I wanted the book to be, where I discovered that fairies have always been with humans, I guess. We've always sort of...
There have always been stories.
There have always been stories. You know, the Celts believed in them, the Elizabethans, the Victorians. I mean, the Victorians, you couldn't swing a
The
dead...
Victorians were sort of obsessed.
Yeah, you couldn't swing a dead cat without hitting up a fairy painting or a fairy statue or a bunch of people dressed up as fairies running around having a fairy ball in a fairy castle somewhere. They were fairies, fairies, fairies. And then basically, at the end of the Victorian era, it was like somebody shut a door. It was just like, fairies, exit stage left, and you couldn't find them anywhere, really, in pop culture. And I was sort of fascinated by that and by the fact that there was a lot of emigration to North America and the fact that New York was becoming this amazing city, and they were building right in the middle of it this huge, massive green space that turned into Central Park. And I was sort of fascinated by why that was happening, because it's really expensive real estate. You could put a lot of buildings there, but instead they turned it into this nature playground. And because, you know, the fairy are all about sort of man versus nature and that kind of thing, I was thinking to myself, well, if the fairy immigrated to North America with their human people, then where would they hang out? Because they like to hang out with the mortal folk. Nature. And so right smack in the middle of the largest city in North America would be a pretty opportune place. So that's how that all came about. And then I also found out this really interesting bit of trivia about one of the sort of lesser known architects. I'm all about the guardians. The hot guardians of the gate.
It's hard not to think about the Guardians.
It is actually a little bit,
even when you're not talking about the books.
Yeah. Oh, that's Sunny Flannery.
Oh, that's Sunny Flannery.
Oh, that's Fenris Wolf.
Fenris Wolf, I have to admit, has my heart.
Oh, yes. He's a bad boy. He's a bad boy, Janet Card. Naughty, naughty.
He's like Spike and from Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Han Solo mixed together. He's really exciting.
Wow, that's an interesting love child.
I like him.
Yeah, I like him too. Yeah, so where were we? Oh yeah, so I actually discovered this interesting bit of trivia about this one particular architect of Central Park named Andrew Haswell Green, and there's a figure in Celtic mythology called the Green Man. It's sort of like a nature god kind of thing, and of course I discovered this Andrew Haswell Green. Well, his last name was Green, and of course Andrew means man, and it does.
Andrew means man?
Yeah, it's from the Greek meaning, the Greek andros meaning.
Oh, how interesting.
Yes. Yeah, so I was like, green.
New information.
Green. Ding, 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 ding. It's a little runner at the bottom of the screen.
New information.
Yes, new information.
Andrew means man.
Andrew means man. And of course, I'm sure you know that Haswell is, of course, a term for from the wild, misty place.
Of course I knew that.
Yeah, see, just like she didn't know that.
I'm from the wild, misty place, too.
Yeah. You are the wild.
I am the wild, misty place.
So basically I had the green man from the wild, misty place who actually was responsible for a lot of Central Park. How could I not use that? And here's the weirder thing. Mm-hmm. When he was in his 90s, this delightful gentleman was actually gunned down on the steps of his New York City brownstone apartment.
That part was true?
Yeah. The actual prologue in Darklight.
I thought that was made up.
That happens on Friday the 13th.
That was real?
November, Friday the 13th, yeah, in 1903. She's, oh, you actually do have goosebumps. Thank you. In 1903, in November, on Friday the 13th, Andrew Haswell Green, at the ripe old age of 90-something, was actually shot to death on the steps of his brownstone apartment.
Wow.